Thank you very much. Last but not least, we have Manish, the CEO and founder of Jiva.Ai. Right? I got to know Manish through a mutual introduction. Manish has a doctorate in mathematical modeling with the emphasis of dealing with large complex data sets from UCL London. He has a master's in bioinformatics and his bachelor degree in molecular genetics from King's College of London. He is currently the technical architect of Jiva.Ai, with previous experience doing algorithmic trading with Lehman Brothers, Tibra Capital, and Barclays, leveraging big data. And he has now used his experience to build the platform called Jiva, which has multiple applications and focus on healthcare. I've seen many such companies. I'm just so excited to share what he has with all of you. Manish, over to you.
Many thanks, Bernard. I'm just going to share my screen here. So hello everyone, and thank you for the organizers for having me today, and thanks Bernard for that very kind introduction. We've had some great presentations today already, and I'm conscious that we're moving towards lunch, so I'll try to keep it as brief and succinct as possible for you. I'm going to turn this deck on its head a little bit and start with the team, because I think this is the most important aspect of our company. I do not exaggerate when I say I'm surrounded by absolute rock stars on this team. You've already heard a little bit about me and my background from Bernard, so I shan't repeat that. But in the core team and board, we have quantum physicists, ex-data science lecturers, serial entrepreneurs and investors with exits under their belts. So we're surrounded ourselves with all sorts of diverse people to help us scale this company. I want to make a special mention for two recent hires, because I believe they represent a really pivotal point in our journey of this company. The first is our CFO, Myron Mahendra, who actually I only met last month, and he was actually scoping the company for investment for the family offices that he represents. And within our third meeting, we're already talking about him having joining the company as a CFO. Jared Germano is a recent hire that will actually he starts next month. He is a CRO from a US company with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of sales experience over there in med tech especially, and comes with a captive client base. I'm incredibly excited to have them coming on board this and next month. So what is Jiva? I shall leave you to look up what the word means, but Jiva is a platform technology. Our what is in fact dual. So truly multimodal AI for anything, anywhere. So you're able to create, evaluate, and deploy your AI models. So to be able to truly practically create complex AI systems, these things are really out of the reach, even for well-established businesses. And so there's a very definite skills shortage that contributes to that. And we want to be able to fix that particular problem. I'll come on to the multimodal bit a little bit later, but just bear that one in mind. The second is truly accessible AI for anyone in any vertical. It means that we want AI tech to become as easy to use as your everyday tools like emails and spreadsheets. And it's easy to forget actually that how much technology goes behind those tools that you use every single day. There's a lot of magic going on behind the scenes there. And we want to make that as easy to do as possible with AI. So this is the grand vision. We want to make it possible to create AIs to the point that you can actually describe it in natural language. So I have an example there. This might be a GP, in a doctor's surgery, who types into Jiva, get me all my patients in my database and predict everyone who will suffer from heart disease. And it's actually one of the things that we did pretty recently for one of our potential clients. How do we actually get to that point? Well, what we're going to do, at least for the next 2 years or so, is to create a data science workbench that is accessible to everyone, that is easy to use, that doesn't require sort of technical expertise to use. And whilst people are using that platform, our own AI technology in the background is actually learning how humans do data science, how humans create AIs. And in doing so, we will get better and better over time on how to actually tackle certain problem sets, whether it's in healthcare or fintech or insurtech, wherever it might be. We'll be able to tackle all of those problems with our set of AI solutions in the background. What problem does that actually realistically solve? Well, I'm willing to bet you've heard all sorts of pitches in the last few years, especially during COVID times. And how many times have you heard about a deep tech company who wants to use AI to diagnose cancer or to discover a new biomarker or to detect unusual trading activity? In fact, I did that particular thing for a bank. These kind of companies are springing up all over the place. But they all have a very common thread, and that is that they all use AI in some respect to solve a particular problem. And some do it really well, others not so much. What we're trying to do is trying to make that journey a lot easier for them. So here's a very short story about an SME, and it could be, it could easily be a very large corporate too. But let's take a startup that is led by a clinician who wants to predict heart disease from primary care data. And this clinician, she has lots of data already, or at least she knows how to procure it. She has some idea of what she wants. She wants to predict heart disease from things like BMI and that kind of stuff. But she doesn't know how to get to that point of creating a medical diagnostic. She doesn't know what it might cost her in terms of time and money. And she doesn't know how to measure the ROI of that cost either. These are questions that all companies of almost all sizes in almost every single industry are tackling when they're using AI. What will she do? Well, she might hire a data science team. That's very expensive. She might hire AI data science consultants, also very expensive. She might outsource. Well, there's IP problems there because people like to grab onto IP. And then the things that she didn't even realize once she's even created a medical device and got it through the regulatory components, once those things are deployed, there are all sorts of ML ops costs. So the operating costs of actually deploying an AI, keeping it up to date and keeping it versioned and having it have a 99.9% uptime and that kind of thing. Also, critically, it's very difficult to deal with modalities. So when our clinician here, she's created an AI from primary care data to predict heart disease. When there is a new indicator like socioeconomic background or genetics or some kind of proteomic component that gives you a little bit more information about whether this person is susceptible to heart disease, well, it's really hard to integrate that new piece of information into your existing AI. And that is precisely the problem that we tackle under the hood. We have the technology to be able to merge different AIs together to create a bigger, better representation of what you're trying to do. And that helps our customers maintain a competitive edge in the marketplace. And it also helps them create AIs that are far more closer to the thing that they're trying to model than doing it the ordinary way of just using, for example, neural networks to do simple classifications. So just to give you a quick idea of what costs might be involved in going through this process for our clinician friend, we could go from as low as the low hundreds of thousands of pounds in terms of salaries and computations, all the way through to millions of pounds for your large MNC who has a lot more people and require a lot more computation to do the things that they want to do. Obviously, this isn't a comprehensive list, but it gives you an idea of what kind of cost and time is involved. So the video you see here is doing exactly what I just described before for our clinician. It's a sped up video. It's only about 6 minutes long, and it shows you within 6 minutes how you can create a heart disease predictor from a database of 10,000 patients that have features like BMI, heart disease history in families, and that kind of thing. And what we're trying to do here, in fact, this was done by one of my developers who's not even a data scientist. What he's trying to do here is to chain together all these different components that are required to create an AI solution. And you can see that in the end, he doesn't really need any really special knowledge about how the thing comes together. In the back end, like I say, our system is learning how everything is being put together. So the next time someone comes along with this particular data set, or there's a similar type of data set, they're able to do that in a much quicker way through our AutoML process. Not only does he do all of his R&D here, he does his deployment here too. So he can deploy into a production environment right from the same platform. So he doesn't need to have any kind of special knowledge around the MLOps side of things. And that creates a nice stickiness to our product. Very importantly, our customers love the fact that we don't hold their IP. So whatever they create here in this particular platform is entirely theirs. The AI solution is theirs. But here's the important point. We're not quite at the low code UI that we want to be at in terms of our vision, but it's part of the reason why we're raising the money. Our first step is just to create this drag and drop kind of interface to enable this particular type of activity. So where have we got to date? Well, we have our platform already up and running and we have revenue coming in. But in our early days, we kind of had to understand what our customers wanted and how they might operate in the marketplace. And so to do that, we actually created 2 use cases, one prostate cancer diagnostics and another in liver disease screening, which is actually partnered with Roche Diagnostics and GE. And just to understand what they need to go through to create these products. And we were able to rapidly prototype AI in those particular areas. And it puts us in a really unique position because it means that we're actually 2 startups in one. There is actually an opportunity to have early exit opportunities for those particular use cases. Onto the ask. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to whiz through this. We're looking for a minimum of £3 million. We already have existing investors softly committed to following on. Essentially, this is for us to scale up our business. It is for us to make the extra hires that we need, both at C-level and developer level, to execute the scaling pathways for our platform and exit Jiva.Ai, which is our prostate cancer product, and effectively become a world leader and challenger in the AI marketplace. And with that, I am at precisely 10 minutes, so I shall stop there. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Manish, for bringing some light into a very complex area, right? We heard about AI so many times, but you make it easier for us to understand. So maybe the first question I see on the board here is, what is the concept of multi-modality so important, right? And is it a recognized problem? I think you gave a bit of color from there. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, I think multi-modality has always been a problem. It's just never been called multi-modality. It's always been, I have some data, I'm going to create some classifier from it, I'm going to create some kind of model from it, an AI. And what people don't realize after they've done that is that actually there's always going to be new things that come up that are going to affect how that model behaves. And you want to incorporate those new things into your model so that you can remain competitive in your marketplace, whatever it might be. So I took prostate cancer as an example there, or heart disease as an example there. Those situations are always going to come up. And what happens currently is that these guys go back all the way back to drawing board, integrate their data together, which might not even be possible to do in the first place, and then do the entire R&D modeling process all over again. And if you imagine how long that might take, I'll give you an example from our liver disease use case, right? Our liver disease use case, my CTO worked on that 2.5 days a week for 9 months and created and did it the normal way, Python coding, created an AI from the data set, created a model, also created a model that works, but took 9 months for him to do it. Now imagine going through that process again, doing it again for 9 months. In this particular case, actually our backend developer, James, he started from scratch on our liver disease project, used our platform. Within 3 days, he had a model that was superior. So that's the kind of scale up we're talking about that we can actually provide, not only in the R&D process for your initial modeling, but then the multimodal aspects, the other pieces of information that contribute to a complex system. How do those integrate in afterwards?
Thank you, Manish. 2 questions that I'm going to bundle into one, right? How do you see Jiva generating new IP if the customers hold the IP as you have presented? And what gives you a competition, right? What gives you an edge over the competition? So someone asked about RapidMiner and other such offerings. So
yeah, sure. So people like RapidMiner, Data IQ, Databricks, those kind of guys, they like to say that they're low no code, but actually they're not. Again, just to demonstrate the point, I have a guy that has 30 years of experience in data science. He picked up Databricks the other day for the first time. He doesn't really use those kind of applications, just to see how it worked. And he just couldn't make it work. He couldn't actually get anything useful out of it. And so there are those applications out there like RapidMiner that are not really low code, first of all. They're not really built for your ordinary person and don't really quite cater for the full breadth of type of companies that are using AI along all the different types of industry verticals. That's the first thing. The second thing is none of the companies that are mentioned there in our competitor list, I've got a big list of competitors, actually tackle multimodality in any serious way. None of them recognize this fact that you have to be able to integrate data, new pieces of information over time, new verticals of data over time. What was the former question again? Sorry.
Yeah. So the question of how do you, because you're not holding the IP, right? So what is Jiva's IP, right?
Yeah. So we actually already have a patent for the types of algos that we use under the hood. 90% of the world uses neural networks. The other 10% uses some kind of probabilistic algos like Bayesian methodologies, that kind of thing. And none of those actually help you do the multimodality piece. So we've actually created a whole new breed of algos that help us create our AIs. So when we say our customers hold their IP, they create the solutions, they hold that particular IP. Our IP actually comes in where we are observing how our users are doing data science, how our users are creating AIs. That is actually our real IP. We hold that data, we hold that human behavior internally, and we teach our own AIs how humans are doing those things, so that next time round, our AI can say, hey, I've seen this kind of problem before. This is how you should do it. Don't spend $100,000 on AWS doing neural networks and convolutional neural networks and all this kind of stuff. I already know that this particular class of agent-based model fits this problem really, really well. Spend $4,000 instead.
All right. Well, one last question, and I think we need to close this. So I was very excited when we met and I looked at how your output of this liver cancer and the prostate cancer, which I understand you're going for FDA and CE marking, yes. Right? So, so that's very exciting. Can you talk a bit about how long that process took and how do you potentially see Jiva exiting, right, to the next round?
Oh yeah, sure. So in terms of those particular use cases, the liver disease one is an easy one. We've actually already done all the work there. It was part of a 3-year grant-funded project, which is halfway through. So technically, there's 18 months left on the project. The way we see that exiting is a spin out from Manchester University, where everyone who's on the consortium, so that's us, that's Roche Diagnostics, that's GE Healthcare, and Manchester University, will probably create a spin out from Manchester, and we will obviously hold some IP and revenue sharing opportunity there as a company of contributing to that technology. Similarly, for the prostate work, we're actually talking to large consultancy businesses who are interested, once we are CE marked and FDA approved, to actually buy that product from us or license it from us so that they can scale it themselves, because they are more interested in specific disease verticals and selling those specific disease verticals. Whereas we, as a SaaS company, we just want to sell the tooling, right? We're kind of like the Microsoft Excel of the world, where, you know, when you want to create a spreadsheet, you go to Excel. When someone wants to create an AI, we want them to go to Jiva.
Okay. And so you potentially see yourself being like the tool of choice for everyone who wants to do AI, right?
Exactly, yeah. So rather than be a specific solution for a specific disease area, we just want to be able to serve all of those horizontally.